Daniel Ricciardo is a Formula One racing driver from Australia noted for his talent, charm, and spells with teams such as Red Bull Racing and Renault. In Formula One, there is never a good time to be benched with a broken hand, but Daniel Ricciardo may have picked the worst time to be in a cast and sling. Ricciardo shattered a metacarpal bone in his left hand after a crash during Friday practice at the Dutch Grand Prix, only the third weekend of his F1 comeback, and faces an uncertain stint on the sidelines. Ricciardo was racing alongside compatriot Oscar Piastri when the younger Australian wrecked on the racing line at banking turn 3. Without enough time to avoid a direct collision, Ricciardo pulled the steering wheel to the right to hit the barriers instead. The proper instinct that carried less risk for him and Piastri. He did, however, leave his hands on the wheel for too long as he guided up the bank. The tiny bones absorbed the blow in his left hand and one snapped in many places. Ricciardo underwent surgery after consulting with Spanish specialist Xavier Mir, who is recognized for his ability to heal damaged MotoGP riders and get them back on their motorcycles with sometimes humiliating speed. Earlier this year, he served as a consulting surgeon for Lance Stroll, who broke both his wrists in a cycling accident on the eve of pre-season testing. He returned to the track around 2 weeks later, finishing 6th in the season-opening Bahrain Grand Prix. But now comes the difficult part: recovery. For a normal human being, that would be a couple of months, remarked Red Bull Racing CEO Christian Horner following the procedure. However, for a Grand Prix driver, that distance is probably much shorter. We need to see how that recovery process goes. Speaking to Sky Sports earlier this weekend, Horner claimed that the Singapore Grand Prix in just over a fortnight would be the earliest potential return date, giving the West Australian roughly 20 days between surgery and first practice. But on the other hand, Singapore is probably one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar, he continued. However, nature will take its course. Marina Bay is one of the most physically demanding courses in Formula One, with 19 predominantly tight turns, frequent 2-hour race times, and equatorial heat and humidity. It's not the kind of track where you can test your physical fitness. It'll all come down to how long the recovery process takes, Horner added. Will it be 3 weeks? A month? Is it really 6 weeks? Nobody knows for sure. The only certainty is that Ricciardo will miss at least a second race at the Italian Grand Prix this weekend. Ricciardo is obviously expected to miss the Italy race, and then there's a 2-week gap to the next one, but that's the extremely physical challenge of Singapore. And while Horner has suggested that Ricciardo has that race as the target for his return, it's one of the toughest on the calendar, which means Ricciardo could miss any of the 3 races from Italy next week to the Japanese Grand Prix. However, even that would have to be considered a doubt given that it is only 1 week. Prior to the accident, Ricciardo emphasized his resolve to continue his F1 career with what he called the Red Bull family for the remainder of his career, so it is unfortunate that he suffered such a physical setback. This is a blow given that he was eager for his comeback to gain momentum after the summer break. Ricciardo joined Red Bull as a third driver at some races, acting as reserve, performing simulator work, and taking part in promotional events after leaving McLaren at the end of the previous season, 1 year before the end of his contract. He was brought in to replace the unproductive Nick de Vries at AlphaTauri with the intention of perhaps, when they spoke following Ricciardo securing a drive full-time until 2024. While Ricciardo claims he won't rush his comeback from injury, it is evident that he wants to do it as soon as feasible, given that since returning to the grid, Ricciardo has been involved in potentially dangerous situations. Maybe in 2025 or the next year, Sergio Perez will be replaced at Red Bull Racing. That's assuming he can demonstrate his ability to recover from his poor McLaren period, which rests on 2 factors. There may be less immediate pressure placed on Perez if Ricciardo succeeds in impressing Red Bull, which could be helpful in the case of Perez's underperformance. Ricciardo's absence obviously reduces the opportunity he has, and if he does not return at full fitness, that could further compromise his efforts. Unusual comments from Red Bull Motorsport advisor Helmut Marko appeared to have finally admitted Perez's Red Bull Racing seat for 2024 around the Dutch Grand Prix. After all, Marko twice indicated Perez's Red Bull Racing seat is not guaranteed for next season, despite previous insistence from the team that Perez is going nowhere. First, there was an article published by Kleiner Zeitung in which Marko said of Perez's contract 2024 that Nothing is 100% certain in F1, and that performance-related situations should be discussed on Friday at Zanesville. You don't have to look very hard to get the hint that Marco informed Sky Germany that Red Bull wants to keep him for 2024, but that he must perform for it. Although team boss Horner has consistently defended his driver and used the 2024 contract as proof to refute rumors, Perez may have a contract through 2024, but if he does not perform up to par, Red Bull may replace him. This aligns with a broader belief in the paddock that Perez is not absolutely fixed in that seat for next year. Marco attempted to retract his statement mid-weekend after telling the German publication Automotor and Sport that Perez was unquestionably fixed for the upcoming season after another lackluster qualifying effort in challenging conditions with Paris' massive one. This meant that the previously implicit threat of dropping him if he wasn't good enough for Red Bull became more explicit. It's possible that Marco wanted to get everyone on the same page. It's unusual to try a U-turn when you're 3 seconds slower than Max Verstappen. Of course, this could all simply be if it was just a motivational strategy, then it was an odd one, as suggesting Perez's future is in doubt sparks this kind of speculation and risk. As suggesting Perez's future is in doubt sparks this kind of speculation and risk. Destabilizing a driver whose confidence has been shaky for a while and considering that Marco is Marco, you know, with his own unique methods of trying to light a fire under Perez and get him to up his game. A combination of an off at turn 1 and other factors helped Paris finish 4th at Zanesville. Significant changes have occurred in the scenario involving Daniel Ricciardo, Liam Lawson, and the Red Bull Racing team. It sparked concerns about Red Bull's F1 driver intentions when rain started falling during a race in which Ricciardo was running second, and a 5-second penalty put him behind Pierre Gasly. Although Lawson had shown promise at AlphaTauri, the competition for Red Bull's 2024 seat was thin, putting Sergio Perez as the front runner. However, given Ricciardo's setback and Lawson's potential, a full-time replacement for Ricciardo in 2024 may be possible. Yuki Tsunoda's good performance at AlphaTauri, backed by Honda, could cement his place, influencing Red Bull's decisions even more. Ricciardo's future is unknown. Despite the fact that Red Bull has an option on him, pitting him against Lawson for the same spot, Red Bull frequently puts drivers in difficult F1 circumstances, and Lawson's time arrived when he replaced Ricciardo at Zandvoort. Lawson faced a difficult assignment when he joined FP3 with no prior experience in the AlphaTauri. Even after a penalty, he maintained a competitive pace in the race despite his poor qualifying performance. Given the difficult circumstances, Lawson's potential could not be properly measured. Lawson had been on the outskirts of Red Bull's F1 ambitions, but now he has an opportunity to shine. Previously, his fate appeared to be linked to the decisions of other drivers, particularly within AlphaTauri. Winning the Super Formula Championship would help his chances, but the championship would be determined in late October. However, given Ricciardo's troubles and Lawson's recent opportunity, he has the potential to jump to the top of Red Bull's considerations for the 2024 season. So that's it for today's video. Don't miss out on our future content. Hit that subscribe button now for an exciting dose of captivating F1 videos. Stay tuned and stay amazed.